Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Film, and I'm not qualified to be a doctor. Today in this video, we won't be doing a review, but instead we're discussing top 5 possible villains for the Batman sequel. Before we get started, you should know that this is merely a discussion of what we might expect from the Batman sequel. And be warned that this video contains major spoilers from the Batman movie. And you should know that I won't be including Penguin and Two-Face in this list for 2 reasons. 1, Penguin will be having his own spin-off show on HBO Max, and 2, it's highly unlikely we'll have Two-Face as the next big villain, since we already had 2 different iterations of the same character. It would be nice to see Harvey working alongside Gordon and Batman as the new DA, but not as a villain yet. Now that we have covered everything, let's begin the list. Number 5. Near the end of the movie, after Batman saves the people of Gotham, we see the Riddler locked up at Arkham State Hospital until an unknown inmate calls out to him and declares Edward as his new best friend. And before the scene ended, the inmate started laughing maniacally till the Riddler laughed along with him. And that's when I knew who it was that can laugh like that. The one and only Joker.
Why so serious?
However, even though Matt Reeves confirmed that it was the Joker at the end of the movie, he wasn't the fully realized Joker yet. In other words, this is someone still in the early process of becoming the Joker. With that in mind, it's pretty unlikely we'll see the Joker as the next main villain. But that doesn't mean he won't be in the sequel. Even though Gotham City is safe for now, I'm afraid there might be another storm on the way. Something much worse.
This fruitcake is fantastic! Anyone want a piece?
Number 4. Remember the scene where Catwoman gets attacked by one of Riddler's goons until Batman injects himself with a shot to stop the attacker? If you take a closer look at the injector Batman's holding, you'll notice that the liquid's color is green. And you might be thinking, wait, isn't there another person that uses green liquid to boost his strength? More specifically, using Venom? Yes, and we all know who uses the right stuff.
Bane.
But then again, Batman took an adrenaline shot, not Venom, which was confirmed by Matt Reeves. And let's not forget that there have been 2 different iterations of Bane. We have one that is memorable and strong, and one that is all muscle, but no brain. So yeah, it's pretty unlikely we'll see Bane in the sequel, but I am curious to know what Matt Reeves has in mind for this character.
And then, when it is done, and Gotham is ashes, then you have my permission to die.
Number 3.
You don't want to do this, Freeze.
Oh, I believe I do. You will bring me Nora, or you will die.
Yes, I know this may come off as a stretch, but believe it or not, Matt Reeves talked about the idea of introducing Mr. Freeze in a more grounded version during a press event. He states that having a grounded interpretation of Mr. Freeze could make a really great and powerful story. And seeing as how great Batman is and how many people love it, yeah, I can see Matt Reeves pulling this idea off. But then again, how can you make a grounded interpretation of Mr. Freeze? Like, how can you make him realistic? We're talking about the same character who freezes people into blocks of ice. And let's not forget about the time another director attempted to bring Mr. Freeze on the big screen and failed miserably. More specifically, casting Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
The Iceman cometh.
Why, Joel? Why? Why cast him? Why not Patrick Stewart? That's 2 times, guys! 2 times that I referenced Batman and Robin! This should never have happened! And don't worry, Poison Ivy isn't on this list. For right now, she's in the Batwoman show, which isn't doing so well. Number 2.
Welcome, Mr. Wayne.
Not exactly a warm welcome.
In case you don't know, in the comics, the Court of Owls is an ancient society that has controlled Gotham for centuries. It is a cult of many wealthy families using their money and influence to control Gotham behind the scenes. And you might be asking me, why are they on this list? Well, let me tell you why. Do you remember the scene where Batman tries to save the DA, Gil Coulson? You see, during that scene, Coulson had to answer this last question about who was the informant that exposed Maroni's operations. But he refuses and dies. But before he died, he said this. This is bigger than you could ever imagine. It's the whole system. We all assumed he was referring to Falcone because he's the big crime boss of Gotham City. But what if he wasn't referring to Falcone? What if he was referring to someone else? Like the system he mentioned. What if he was referring to an organization that has controlled Gotham for years? Such as the Court of Owls. Man, I'm just picturing Batman going after the Court of Owls in a warlike movie, like The Dark Knight Rises, but better. But then again, it's highly unlikely we'll see the Court of Owls in the sequel because there are a lot of stories and comic books involving this secret society. So it's pretty doubtful that Matt Reeves will introduce this particular storyline anytime soon. But it's interesting to think how Batman can defeat such a massive organization, especially when they have skilled assassins at their disposal. And trust me, you don't want to face any of these assassins up close.
Run.
And now, the number 1 possible villain for the Batman sequel is...
Hush, Batman. Hush.
Do you remember the scene where Batman looks at a video and discovers that Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, had a reporter killed through Carmine Falcone because the reporter threatened to release sensitive information regarding Martha Wayne's history of mental illness? If you take a closer look, you'll notice that the Riddler placed the word hush in the middle of the video. And you'll also discover that the reporter's name is Edward Elliot. In the comics, the villain's name is Thomas Elliot. Could this mean that Thomas Wayne killed the father of Thomas Elliot? Could this implicate that the son of the reporter will return to Gotham to exact his revenge against the Wayne legacy as Hush?
Soon, Batman. Very soon.
Man, just thinking about it gives me literal goosebumps. If Matt Reeves does intend to make Hush the next main villain for the sequel has the potential to be better than its predecessor. Oh man, I can already see it becoming an epic movie already! But then again, maybe the Hush references were just Easter eggs, nothing more. Heck, for all we know, maybe Hush will appear in the sequel, but not as the main villain, more likely as a secondary villain, like in most Batman movies. We might not know for sure until we get confirmation from Matt Reeves. Till then, we've got plenty of time to discuss who will take on the Dark Knight himself in the sequel. And let us hope that our next main villain doesn't steal focus from the Batman himself, like in the previous Batman movies. But let us not fear, my friends, for the Batman is in the right hands. Well, that's the end of my list. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more of my content. Thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot. And as always, I will see you guys in the shadows. On vengeance.